Hey everyone, welcome back to another Godzilla Battleline video. Now, if you've been hanging out on this channel, you know that recently I just did a review of all the bronze units and all the silver units. Well, you guys must have liked it because the most requested thing I got out of that on my YouTube comments and on my Discord was to review the 4 stars and the 3 stars. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to review the 4 stars. Now, something I want to say before we start is you can see on the 4 stars on the very top row, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the second row, 1, 2, and the bottom row with Kiryu 1, right? There are crowns on these characters. So, Space Godzilla, Biollante, Mothra Larva, Battra Larva, Kong, Jet Jaguar, and Kiryu can all be leader units. When we talk about these characters, I'm going to break them down as an individual unit and then also as a leader. We didn't have to do this for the bronze and silver pieces because there were no leaders, but for the gold and 4-star legendary pieces, we're going to have to separate unit from leader because both are kind of in different uses and you need to be thinking differently when using them. With that being said, let's just jump right into it and start off with the very first character, and we're just going to go in the order that you see on the screen. First up is Space Godzilla. Now, Space Godzilla is a unit that I have used quite a bit, and I actually do enjoy as a unit. So you can see on the screen, Space Godzilla is putting out crystals, and they have a little ring around them. These rings will buff up units. Let me go to the stats and check it out exactly. So the attack boost, it says 125%. We know that these numbers are usually inaccurate. It's probably and most likely a 1.25% increase to attack, but regardless, the buff that Space Godzilla actually does provide is kind of crazy. So what you want to do with Space Godzilla is you drop him on the field in front of a unit or, you know, behind a unit to just buff him. What I like to do is put Space Godzilla down, wait a little bit, and then put Godzilla Ultima behind him so that Ultima can get buffed and do insane sniping damage. I like Space Godzilla a lot. He is a very useful unit on the field, and he can be used extremely well in particular situations. I don't believe he's a must-have, but with his most recent buff this season, I do believe his value has gone up, but he's not a required piece for wins. So, as a leader, Space Godzilla does not come close to his utility as a unit. He is a solid leader. I mean, he has decent enough stats and health and stuff like that, but what really you would be using him for anyway would be his leader ability, which is called the Photon Field. It costs 2 energy and has a 2-minute cooldown. What it does is it produces 6 crystals across the battlefield and increases damage dealt by allied units near the crystal by 20%. That's all fine and dandy, but you don't get to control where the crystals are placed. It looks like they're either placed randomly or they have a few different presets of crystals that you can get, like variants 1 through 5 of crystal positions. I'm not entirely sure what the deal is with that, and I'm not a big fan of it. It's really situational, and unless you have massive board control, these crystals might not even power up one of your units. They might walk by them, they might not be in range or whatnot. They are really good for distracting units like the Stealth Bomber you see one after the crystals. That's because units like Stealth Bomber and Gigan also target facilities, and the crystals do count as facilities. So even Space Godzilla walking on the battlefield, his crystals will count as well and should stop Stealth Bomber and Gigan. But overall, I don't see a lot of Space Godzilla utility as a leader. Can be good for stalling Burning Godzilla, because Burning Godzilla will have to walk around the crystals and he can build up charge. But other than that, unless you're playing massive board control, I don't really see a use for Space Godzilla as your leader. So, doesn't have my seal of approval, but definitely as a unit is something that you can be considering for placement in your deck. Next up is Biollante. Now, Biollante has 2 forms and is a leader, so we haven't talked about any evolution units yet, I don't think, but now's a better time as any to start. So, Biollante costs 3 energy originally in the Flower Beast form, and you put her down, she's super slow. She does get a buff in the water temporarily, but she has great AoE for a slow unit and a weak unit, but the positive thing is she's really easy to evolve. Currently in the game, she goes super slow, she gets a nice buff in water, so what you want to do is just throw her in there and she's just gonna evolve and basically do her job. It's really easy to kill the Flower Beast form with like a King Caesar or a Mothra Leo, but at the end of the day, you're not really concerning yourself with the Flower Beast form. It's the next stage that you really want. So Biollante Plant Beast form is where things get really interesting for this unit. Biollante's final evolution has not really been a staple of the meta at any point in time. She's always been way too slow, not enough damage, not enough health, too low cost, too high cost, whatever. She's just not playable, right? I can't adequately put into words how good Biollante is right now in the game. So what I'm going to do is read a little page excerpt, or whatever you want to call it, from my Discord from Brahma. Brahma is the one, if you're on this channel for a long time, helps me with all the data collection stuff, amazing math, he does all the DPS on everything. So I'm going to read you what he had to say about Biollante post-buff. Biollante got about a 12 to 15% buff on HP and attack. Level 30 Biollante plant is now third highest single target damage dealer in the game at 412 DPS. Godzilla 21's infinite damage is the first highest DPS. G89 at 665 damage per second is the second. Considering Biollante plant is an AoE unit, she is effectively the highest damage in the game if she is attacking more than one unit. Also, if spawned in water, she gets an 80% buff to attack that lasts until she dies. Biollante's self-buff brings her attack to 741 damage per second, making her the highest effective single target damage in the game. And you know, that's absolutely massive. And for a 3-cost unit to have the most DPS in the game while in water is absurd. You don't have to use Biollante in all of your decks, but if you were playing on London and you don't want to use Bio as your leader, you would be stupid not to include her in your deck. She's an absolute machine this season. I foresee a huge nerf in the future. She's either going to have her energy increased or her buff decreased, because she does a crazy amount of damage right now. She is so powerful, and if you do not have her slotted in your deck or as your leader, then you are doing something wrong, because Biollante might be one of the best units in the game right now. So just like Biollante on the field, Biollante as your leader is also probably one of the best leaders in the game. And it's all due to her special ability, which I will read to you right now. It's one of the longest ones we have in the game, and it's one of the best ones, period, that we've ever had. And especially now with her, I guess not her specifically, but with all the 4-star characters and all the 4-star leaders getting a buff last season to make them all more viable and live longer, with the additional health Biollante received from that patch, it has made her incredibly viable. She used to have, this ability was the same, this ability has always been the same, but she didn't have a lot of health, so when she was run up on, she would die easily. But now, her health is pretty averaged out with the other 4-star units, which makes her even more incredibly viable than she's ever been. Let me read you this description. Acid Slap, 1 cost energy. Cooldown is 60 seconds. The matches last a minute. That means if you were to use this cooldown, say as soon as the match started, you can use this a total of 5 times in a match, and it is insane. Okay, gotta read this. Deals 200 damage in a straight line, whatever, and increases the movement speed and bodies of water of allied ground units on the battlefield by 300%. Incredible. On London or New York, this can be huge. That's not why we're here. This is why we're here. And increases damage dealt of allied long-range attacking units on the battlefield by 20% for 45 seconds. The cooldown on this ability is 60 seconds. So you literally have 15 seconds of downtime between when this ability ends and when you can use it again. What units are long range that'll benefit from this? Battra flying form, Godzilla Ultima, King Ghidorah, Jet Jaguar, Godzilla 21 I think benefits from this, Burning Godzilla benefits from this, Manila benefits from this, Super X benefits from this. This doesn't have a cap on what units benefit. So for example, King Kong has a very similar leader ability, only his effects, I believe it's 5-star units and up. We'll see him in a bit, but his ability, if it was uncapped like this ability, it would also be incredibly powerful. But Biollante has no restrictions on this ability. That means if you have an Ultima on the field and a Manila on the field, they're going to be putting up 20% more damage than normal. This is an insane ability, especially considering King Ghidorah and Godzilla Ultima are still ruling the current meta. This is an absolute nightmare to deal with if you are not adequately prepared. I have taken down so many top player decks with a Biollante range deck that it is ridiculous. I haven't had a G89 reach my leader in months ever since this became viable, because I will just nuke them before they even get a chance to breathe. Biollante might be one of, if not the best leader in the game right now, and one of the best units you could possibly have in your deck. This is the season of Biollante, my friends. Now, to go from the highest of highs to maybe the lowest of lows, we are talking about Mothra. Not Mothra Leo, regular Mothra. What is there to say? 3 cost, you get a little bit slow with the larva. Not very great. Not the best. Mothra larva pretty slow, pretty easy to evolve if your enemy is distracted, but will die instantly to like a King Caesar or a Mothra Leo, or if your Ultima gets within range of this Mothra, it's just going to kill it. So something to be aware of. Not very high risk, high reward, but Mothra Imago form definitely better than the larva. So let's just skip over to that. So Mothra Imago, pretty good unit overall, decent enough unit. Not a lot of more grand utility. Didn't get a huge buff anytime soon. Has actually gotten nerfed because I think the energy cost went up between the larva and Mothra Imago, and I think that was really early on. Overall, Mothra Imago as a unit, not something that I'm particularly investing in myself. If you want it in your deck because you're a big fan of Mothra, she does hold her own, but she has to get really close to the enemy units, and a lot of characters that have higher damage than her will just run through her pretty quick. Godzilla Ultima, King Ghidorah, Mega Gearus will destroy her. The Rodans even could take her down. Battra, she really gets outshined by a lot of higher damage units. She has a really interesting attack. She's amazing to look at on the field. She looks super great, but not a unit that I would recommend that you put in your deck unless you have a pretty solid flying strategy. I know a lot of decks will run like Mega Gearus, King Ghidorah, Fire Rodan, Battra, Mothra Larva. Those decks are a little bit expensive, but if you're running an all-flying deck, Mothra is a pretty essential piece of that. Otherwise, I'm not really seeing her used at all. So, how the mighty have fallen. Mothra Imago as a leader was at one point the best leader in the game. For 1 month, you could make your units invincible. It was so bad that Toho straight up came out and was like, hey, this unit is bugged and broken. We are capping her ability. So, what was her ability? Life Force scales, energy, 2 cost, cooldown 120 seconds. Restores 4% of the maximum HP of each allied ground unit on the battlefield every second for 30 seconds, This was incredible. To put down on the field Anguirus or Kong or G89, you could effectively make them immortal. It was so bad that the only decks being run were these decks where you would just turn 1. If you had G89 in your hand, you would wait a little bit, drop G89 in the field, drop one of the swarms like Kamacuras on the field, and then just pop this and win. It was so insane. It was so hard to deal with. The only way you could really get around this was to Mogera the Mothra. You had to wait for the G89 to leave, drop your Mogera down, drop some missiles down, trains, or whatever, and just hope that you could kill the Mothra before their G89 killed you. This was an insane ability that, unfortunately, after Toho came out and fixed the bug, has never been the same. Mothra Imago as a leader is not a high risk, high reward anymore. It's just high risk. Her health is far too low for a leader, and she does not do a lot of damage as a leader, and her ability basically doesn't really work anymore. The health you receive from the Life Force scales is so minuscule and so insignificant in the grand scope that it might as well just not even exist in the first place. So if you're using Mothra as your leader, I am questioning all of your choices that you make in the game, but if she's your favorite monster, who am I to judge and tell you that you can't use her? I'm not going to use her ever. I'm not recommending anyone use her ever, and without a serious buff, I don't think her as a leader will ever be viable. So Battra has had a pretty good rise to power over the last month. Battra was pretty much unusable, not very good payout for what you're paying to put him on the field in terms of energy. But both his Larva form and his Imago form both got buffs. So Battra Larva got an increase to their HP, increased the duration of the attack power-up effect at the time of placement, and the evolution time has been shortened. Excellent. Shorter evolution time is also great. It made Hetera unplayable into meta. It's definitely making Battra more meta as well. Battra Adult got an increase to attack power and increase the duration of the power-up effect over time when you put the unit on the field. So if we go here, it says attack is 150%, so that is a 15% buff, I believe, because you just move the decimal point over, so it's not 150%, it's 15, and that's when you place the unit on the field for 15 seconds. Any other unit, let me put the picture there. When you drop them down in that ring, they get powered up 15%. Great to use. Battra's super slow, so easy to evolve now, and that buff is super helpful. You can put on long range units and it will slap. It is really good. Battra Imago, same kind of deal. Place them on the field. If your unit is in the ring, they're going to get a power up, and it's 15 seconds again, and it's still the 15%. But Battra Imago also, what did I say, had their base attack power increased as well. So their attack right now 496, mine's level 5. Not too crazy of a unit. Oh, I backed out of that. But in any case, Battra is seeing a ton of play because of these buffs, and I have been able to make great use of him on my team. I use him for a quick little buff on any long-range units like Manila and Ultima, and then when he evolves, he's a great unit to have in the air, and I do believe he benefits from, reach long, from Biollante's buff. So when Biollante is a leader, you can totally come through and buff up this Battra and make him even scarier. Now, Battra Leader didn't really get any changes. I know a lot of people have been saying positive things about the Battra Leader, but I haven't found him useful. He did have that one bug, like in August or something, where you would use his ability at the very start of the match and it would go on forever and you would just automatically win. But anyway, here's his ability as it stands. Prism Beam, 1 cost of energy, cooldown 90 seconds, so a minute and a half. Deals 40 damage in a straight line. Garbage. Absolute garbage. And increases the movement speed of allied aerial units in the field by 50% for 15 seconds. So all of your air units are going to be faster, and it does like no damage. This is not a great ability. This needs a serious rework for this to be viable at all. I don't recommend you use Battra Leader. I know people are saying they have great success with him. I can't really find a viable use for this. If you want to buff your Mothras and your Rodans and your King Ghidorah, your Mega Gears, go for it. But there are just a lot of other abilities that leader units have, especially 4-star units have, that I think you would be able to make more use of. Battra Imago as a unit has my stamp of approval to go into your deck. Battra as a leader does not have my stamp of approval. Alright, so King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah is an amazing unit to have on your team. It was a 7-cost monster, or maybe it was 8 cost at one point. No, I think, yeah, it was a pretty high cost. It was like 8 cost, and then it was brought down to 6, which did wonders. This character literally went from being unplayable to one of the best units you could place down on the field. And it even was nerfed, but it's still good. The nerf was to lower the range. So the King Ghidorah previously used to be able to attack your leader without the leaders being able to fight back, but they've decreased the range of King Ghidorahs so that they can be hit by leaders. This still doesn't even really matter. King Ghidorah has great attack strength. Let me put the stats up. Great attack strength, has long reach, so it does benefit from the Biollante buff if you choose to do so. Is a flying unit, will benefit from a Battra Leader buff. A quick attack speed of 2.1 seconds, so it wouldn't have been able to be stun locked by Manila previously, and it currently won't be stun locked by Manila now. Has decent enough health and has good damage, and it is a fast unit. Overall, not enough good things I could say about King Ghidorah. I think this is a unit that, especially right now, you should for sure be slotting in your deck if you're looking for any 4 stars to place down. This is a really powerful one, and I'm saying just take advantage of it right now before it gets nerfed into the ground, because this unit went from being unplayable to being extremely valuable, and I can only bet in the future it'll be unplayable again at some point, especially with the addition of more and more 4-star monsters. Alright, so the King of the Titans himself, Godzilla 2021. This is one of my favorite units in the game, period, hands down. There is just one little thing about him that is not good. So, look at that video. You see that? He is going to just absolutely drill, and I mean drill, into any other units he comes across. He has an increase to his attack every 3.1 seconds. Every 3.1 seconds that he is fighting a monster, his beam's damage will go up by 1.2 or 1.5%, somewhere in between there. We don't have the strict numbers, but it's just based on some of the math that we on the Discord have done. So I'm saying 1.2 times is a pretty safe bet. It is an incredibly powerful ability, and it is just so useful. The bad thing is he can be stopped super quickly. His health is fairly low for a 4-star, meaning he's a very high risk, high reward. He's 6 energy costs with not a lot of health. So, you know, in this video he goes in alone and he's fighting probably what I can only assume is a low level GD9 leader. This scenario wouldn't really be playing out in high rankings, because this G89 leader would probably kill 21 before the leader dies. With that being said, though, you really want to escort Godzilla 2021 to the enemy leader. He's like a VIP unit. You want to put like a swarm around him, or Ultima or Manila or some other kind of unit around him to protect him so he can do what he's meant to do. Huge other downside, though, is that he can be stopped completely by Manila. So there are plenty of units that slow in the game: the Mbwa base, the Mbwa pair, the Sonde, and then Manila. Only one of these units completely stops the beam from going, and it's Manila. Once Manila's ring hits G21, he will completely stop attacking and has to re-go through his entire animation again before he can resume fire. This will kill G21s. Not only will Manila be faster, Manila has now a 3-second attack. G21 is 3.1 second. Manila can, in theory, stun lock G21. Not because he's going to prevent him from attacking at all, but because before he even gets a chance to get the beam to hit the target, Manila is going to shut that down. So something you really need to be on the lookout for when using G21 is Manilas, because Manilas are still pretty prevalent. However, with the nerf that they got to their speed, there are a few less of them, I should say, running around. So if you want to take advantage of G21, now is especially the time. I've been got by a lot of them recently. So one of my favorite units, one of my favorite abilities, one of my favorite designs in the game, one of my favorite kits. I'm not recommending he goes into your deck because it's very situational. He is very hard to use, but he is a unit that, if I had to choose from a list of 5 4-stars that I would be willing to give a stamp of approval to, this is one of them. Alright, so following G21 is his partner in crime, Kong. And I think it should be said, as a fun fact at least, that this is the first official time Kong of any variation has appeared in a Godzilla game. So I think us as the GBL community should be very fortunate that we even got this crossover to happen in the game. I was only expecting G21 to be added, but we got Kong as well, and that's pretty sweet. So, as a unit, Kong is pretty decent. He's 1 energy less than G89, and he does pretty much the same things as G89. His punches can hit multiple units, as you can see in the video. He is, however, just a little weaker than G89 and has a little bit less health, I believe, than G89. And I think Kong as a substitute for G89 in your deck can be something if you're trying to like conserve your energy and you're like wanting to use that 1 extra energy on maybe something else. You can put Kong in instead. Kong as a unit would probably be better if he had a little bit more health or less cost. Maybe if he was like 5 cost, he would be way more playable. But as it stands, he's still pretty decent as of right now. As a leader, not as viable. So here's his ability right there. He slams the ground and he kills swarms, uses his cool axe. Right, cool. And he's going to buff Mothra for some reason. That is wrong in the video. So here's his ability. Energy cost 1. It's called Earthbreak. Cooldown 1.5 minutes. It deals 320 damage in a fan sickler. It's in a circle. You saw it. It's in a circle. And increased damage dealt by allied units with an energy cost of 6+. That's wrong. It works with 5 cost units as well. On the battlefield by 20% for 15 seconds. This ability would be a lot better if the cost of 6+ or 5+ units was removed. If it just buffed all units for 20% for 15 seconds, that would be pretty big. This has potential with a rework to be one of the best abilities in the game, period. But because they capped the cost of how much energy it costs to place a unit, it's pretty terrible. So all in all, Kong is a leader, decent stats, not a great ability. Use him if you want to. I'm not going to recommend it. Kong as a unit on the field, if you're using G89 as your leader and you want a good G89 substitute, Kong is fine. He's less expensive and he's a little less powerful, but he does the job pretty much the exact same. Alright, so this is one of my favorite units, Jet Jaguar. I love Jet Jaguar in the Singular Point anime, and I actually really like his adaptation in this game. He has won me so many battles. He has an amazing ability as a unit on the field. You can see it in the video right there. He costs 4 energy and he gives you 2 free hits for free. What does that mean? So you can see in the video, King Caesar ran up on him, or I'm sorry, the Kamakuris, watch, he kills them with his AoE attack. He does like a big stab, kills them. They don't even come close to him. His range is so good. His range even got nerfed and it's still incredible. King Caesar, big damage coming up, blocked it, hits, blocked the second hit. His spear goes away, now he's vulnerable, and he still has an AoE kick. It is a really great ability for Jet Jaguar. He's really low cost, he's really low health, but for a tank that can actually eat 2 shots of damage, that's huge. You could eat a really big hit from King Caesar. You could eat some hits from a Godzilla Ultima, I couldn't think of the name, and then you can even block at least some damage from a G21. G21 will run through this shield, but at least Jet Jaguar is taking the hits instead of a more powerful unit or your leader. I'm a very big fan of running Jet Jaguar. I think outside of G89, I think Jet Jaguar is probably the best tank in the game, right next to G89. Very different uses, but I think just as viable. A lot of people are going to say otherwise, and this will probably be the most decisive character in the comments, but I'm a big fan of Jet Jaguar, and think in the right hands, he actually can be extremely deadly and an amazing tank. Now, as a leader, not amazing. His stats are like pretty run-of-the-mill for all the other leaders. Also, I should mention that Jet Jaguar in the field does benefit from the Biollante buff. If you plan on running Biollante and you need a tank in your deck, he benefits from that. Here's his ultimate ability, All-Encompassing Strike. 2 cost for 2-minute cooldown. Deals 300 damage in a circle, whatever, and increases the movement speed of allied long-range attacking units in the battlefield by 50% for 15 seconds. I'm under the assumption this is directly meant to synergize with Godzilla Ultima, who is a long-range unit and who came out not long before Jet Jaguar, and they're from the same anime. They probably are meant to synergize with each other. This would bring Ultima's speed up by a lot and just help you push him to the field, but with Biollante, in water or something like that, you really wouldn't need to use Jet Jaguar's ultimate ability. If you want to run him as a leader, I don't recommend it. I think it looks cool as a leader. His ability, like attack, looks pretty good. There are way better leaders in the game that raise the speed of your units than Jet Jaguar. I think this is the worst of the speed boost abilities, and I'm not going to recommend him as a leader. As a unit, sure, go for it. I think he's pretty solid. As a leader, not going to happen. Alright, Godzilla Ultima and Terrestris. Ultima is probably one of, if not my actual favorite monster in this game. He has gotten nerfed twice and has remained meta for almost 9 months. So, let's talk about him. Godzilla Terrestris on the field has healing. The healing used to be for 15 seconds. On spawn, healing starts, so that way when he takes damage, he just keeps regenerating. This was recently nerfed to 10 seconds. It's been a lot harder now to evolve him. Doesn't matter. You throw some swarms in front of him, you body block with the Kiryu, put him behind a G89 or behind a Battra larva or in the water. Doesn't matter. You can get Terrestris to evolve even still. His attack is decent for a 6 cost pre-evolution, but man, oh man, when he evolves, he is just an absolute death machine. Godzilla Ultima has one of the best ranges in the game. He's only second to Super X. Other than Super X, Godzilla Ultima has the second most range in the game. He is so powerful. Here's take a look at his level 10 stats. He's got a wide search range with the Biollante buff. This is an absolute death sentence to most units that come across it. He can snipe, King Ghidorahs out of the sky. He's far enough away from the leader. The leaders can't hit him. Godzilla Ultima, amazing unit. I know a lot of people are dropping him from the decks right now. Big recommendation from me. If you have a high-powered Ultima, throw him in your deck. A low-powered one is going to help you out in the lower ranks. A medium-powered one, in the current meta, might die pretty fast. A lot of people are running King Caesars and Mothra Leo specifically to counter pre-evolution units to make them die quicker. Terrestris is no exception. As soon as his healing goes down, he is a sitting duck if not protected. However, if you can get Ultima onto the field, he is going to absolutely change the way that you are playing the game, and he's going to help you control the board in ways that you have not even considered. Godzilla Ultima, big ups to him. One of my favorite units of the game. I've used him in my deck since he came out. He has stuck it thick and thin through every meta this game has had. He has been nerfed twice. He had his health regen nerfed, he had his range or something he had nerfed, or his damage was nerfed or something, and he has still remained one of the best units in the game. Alright, Mothra Leo, not an amazing unit, a pretty okay unit. A lot of people are running him, but I'm not my seal of approval, but a decent unit. What Mothra Leo does is a lot like King Caesar. He will do a rush down attack for big damage, and then he'll stop to just do his normal attack. When Mothra Leo is running through with the rush, he's the fastest unit in the game. There are units that are similar in speed, but they're not quite as fast. He's only the fastest unit when he's in that rush, so he can get from point A to point B pretty quickly. He's only one more cost than King Caesar, so if you want to run Leo instead of King Caesar, if you don't mind spending that extra energy, go for it. I personally use King Caesar in my deck over Mothra Leo just because it's cheaper and I can get him on the field faster, but I mean, if you want to run Mothra Leo, he does the same thing as King Caesar. I have a whole video about their comparison between Leo and King Caesar. Either way you want to run it, not really a big deal. They kind of both serve a similar purpose. So Mothra Leo, decent, not a recommendation, not a requirement, but you know, could be a good substitute for King Caesar. All right, now Fire Rodan. So this is the pre-evolution, Rodan 1993, and then you upgrade him to Fire Rodan. He just had a buff to make it so he evolves easier. I believe his speed was decreased. I have the note sheet right here. Rodan 1993 increased HP. So no speed decrease, but he will live a little bit longer. He used to take way too much damage and die. It's easier to get him out into the field now. His base form, not very powerful, but something to note that they don't show in this video on the screen is that he can attack buildings. So if you want to try to buy him some time, you can drop him on Tokyo or whatever next to the buildings that are there, or New York or whatever, and have him go for that. Now, Fire Rodan himself, I believe is a long range. Yep, long range, so does benefit from Biollante buff, but that's not really why we are talking about him. Both of the forms do grant a speed buff, a movement speed buff. I believe it's a 15% speed buff. That's fine. What we want to talk about, and I think they showed in the video, is Fire Rodan's healing. Mothra as a leader has healing, and Psychic Chorus has healing, and Fire Rodan has healing. There are 3 healing support units in the game. Fire Rodan currently is by far, bar none, the best. We have no idea how his attack works. I've reached out to Toho and they have not responded to me whatsoever regarding this. We don't know if it's percent based or fixed rate or like a percent based on his health or the unit's health that he's healing, but this can make or break a team fight. You can see it goes down right there, and he basically heals that Anguirus pretty much to full, and the G89 is just hitting him over and over again and just running in place. You know, he's hitting him, he goes down, Anguirus goes back up to near full, he gets hit, it goes back and forth, back and forth. If you can manage to get Fire Rodan evolved on the field, his death will help you win team fights. It's very hard to pull off the evolution, but I think it's very high risk, high reward. Not a very big recommendation on my list. It's very technical on how you can even use him, because you want him to die first. If he's not dying in a big team fight and you're not getting that healing, you're going to lose. You want to make sure he dies so that your more powerful units like King Ghidorah or Ultima can benefit from this healing, or a tank like G89 or Kong. I like Fire Rodan's ability. I think he's kind of hard to use in practice, so not a big recommendation from me, but I implore you to experiment with him because he does have the best healing in the game, and if that's something you're interested in, he's probably the best supports for that, so go check him out. Alright, Desghidorah, the first event exclusive character in the game at the moment. Desghidorah is very interesting. So Desghidorah on spawn does like a burn effect. The burn doesn't scale with damage, so it's whatever. It does a stun and burn, so it's 50 damage to the burn for 8 seconds. So I think it's 50 damage 1 second, and the next second is 50, and the next second is 50. And then a 0.3 second stun. Not an amazing stun, not a lot of movement speed. So there's the stun, there's the AoE, and then there's his attack. So instead of King Ghidorah, how it does like a cone shape, Desghidorah, I was going to say Destroyer Larva, Desghidorah does it in a straight line. He is 1 more energy more than King Ghidorah, and they do have very similar stats. Desghidorah was previously able to be stun locked by Manila, but with the Manila nerf, this is no longer the case, although it will fuck up Desghidorah's attacks for sure and distract him. He gets distracted really easily because he has a lot of range, and if a unit is running past him, he will completely do a 360. I recommend, if you have a Desghidorah and a King Ghidorah at equal levels, I would recommend running King Ghidorah overall in the long run. It's going to serve you a lot better, and without a serious overhaul, I think Desghidorah is dead on arrival, especially for the fact that you can only buy him once per All-Star Battle event. So we had the Mothra one, and then the Battra one, or I'm sorry, we had the Mothra one, and we had the Jaguar one, and then we had the Biollante one. So you were only able to buy him starting on the Jaguar one. So if you're free to play and you're not buying Desghidorah offers in the store, you're going to have him at level 2 like me. The only other way to get him is in store offers. It's really whaley. So you're going to be having a really low Desghidorah. If you're a brand new player and you happen to have a Desghidorah or level 2 Desghidorah for whatever reason, you can run it, but he's going to fall out of your deck so fast it's not even crazy. I don't recommend using him at a higher level, but if you want to run him, that's totally up to you. I'm not giving him my recommendation just yet. Alright, so the last leader of this video is Kiryu, the most recent leader. Kiryu is sick. As a unit, he's pretty solid. What happens when you place him down? He drops missiles, and they just changed the art for the missiles to make it distinguishable from the missile strike. He does a crazy little animation right there, and then he flies down and just starts doing damage. He does do AoE with that. He does have good range. He has a lot less health than this video makes out. It looks like this is a pretty high level Kiryu and a pretty low level G89. But he's a really great unit to use. He's great to put behind someone. If you have a G89 attacking a leader and then you put Kiryu right behind him, and you can have some kind of barrier between Kiryu and the units that you're fighting, he's going to do a lot for your team. He does benefit from the Biollante buff, which makes him even better. And overall, he's a pretty decent unit to be using. He's not one of the best units you can use, but he is actually a very decent unit to be using on the field. So if you want to run him for 6 energy, go nuts. Next. As a leader, I think he is one of the best leaders in the game. He has decent health, but what you really want is the absolute zero cannon. I have a video talking about it, and I've gone over it extensively, so I'm not going to really touch on it too much here, but I'm going to read it to you anyway for all people who are new who haven't really experienced Kiryu. Absolute zero. Energy cost is 8. Your cooldown is 180 seconds. So you really are only going to be using this maybe once or twice in a match. You know, it's very not amazing to use this ability. Depletes 90% of the current HP of enemy units in a straight line within a certain range. This is an insane ability. So if you go to the special move like I showed you before, they waste it here. And they use it on a Kong, and was that a 21 or G9? Yeah, 2 high-level, high-health tanks. He uses it to take them down. That is a waste. What a lot of people do is they build a stalling deck where with like Swarms or Emboss and Manila and Ultima or whatever to run down the timer. As soon as the timer goes down for the first time, the enemy leader is in range of the absolute zero cannon, and if the leader is at 100% health and they are hit with this cannon, it brings them down to 10 health as soon as overtime starts. This is a crazy ability because then it just opens the field for you to use missile strikes or the trains or like long range units or Mogera to try to take the enemy leader down. It's an insane strat. It's all over the place. It is kind of hard to use because not a lot of people have a high level Kiryu, so if enemies do get to your leader, they'll die pretty fast. But if you have a Kiryu that's, you know, able to survive, I don't see why you wouldn't be running this, especially if you're not running Biollante. If you run Biollante on the field with this to like be a great tank and then you run down the timer, you're going to put out crazy damage. Kiryu right behind Biollante, in my opinion, for 4-star leaders. This is big seal of approval for me, big recommendation for me. I'm a big fan of the Kiryu kit overall. And finally, our latest addition to Godzilla Battle Line, Burning Godzilla. There is a lot to be said about Burning Godzilla. He has one of the most interesting kits we've ever seen in the game, and he's just a lot of opinions about him. So, Burning Godzilla costs 5 energy. He does not have a lot of health. He is very slow. He actually can still be stunlocked by Manila. Manila's attack is 3 seconds. Burning Godzilla is 3.3. He can be stunlocked. And he doesn't do too much damage. What he does is die. So, as you play the game, you will build up a bar or a meter. You can see it above him right there. Green, and then yellow, and then orange. With that meter, it will do different amounts of damage. So expiration damage 1 is when no meter is built. Expiration damage 2 is when you have the first green meter. Expiration damage 3 is when you have the second yellow meter. And expiration damage 4 is when you have the final orange/red meter. When you get him to expiration damage 4, especially at higher levels, level 1, mine is really low. If you can get him to like level 5, 6, and 7, his expiration 3 and 4 damage is going to be crazy. The only problem is it takes him about a minute and a half to reach his full potential, and by that time, he can reach the other end of the map. And if he reaches the enemy leader before he charges up, it's just going to kill him, and you're going to get stuck with the expiration 2 damage. He can get sniped. You really have to escort Burning Godzilla and stall him to get him to his maximum potential. I think there definitely needs to be some adjustments made to his stats, because he has the potential to be one of the best units in the game and a great suicide bombing unit in the game. It's just the fact that it's so hard to get him to where he needs to be playable, that it makes him almost unusable and a waste of the 5 energy. So as it stands, Burning Godzilla is a fun unit to use, but I don't think he's a must-have. I think he's an interesting, really technical character. You can try to finagle something with Fire Rodan's healing, or Mothra or Space Godzilla to keep him alive for longer, but it really just comes down to how fast the enemy is going to kill him and how much is leveled up, because that's going to determine how much damage he's going to do when he dies, and I don't think at the moment it's worth running. So I know this is probably going to end up being a long video. I think I spent about 2 minutes on every unit, so I can only imagine the editing process for this, but that was all the 4-star units. I'm going to do the 3 stars next, and there's a lot less of the 3 stars than there is of the 4 stars, so that should be a quicker video. If you enjoyed this kind of video, let me know. I can do it again when more units come out for quick reviews, or make a YouTube short or something like that, but just let me know. The bronze and silver ones were liked a lot, so I'm hoping that this one is just as well received. If you have any differing opinions than me, let me know below. The silver video especially had a lot of feedback regarding King Caesar, and then the bronze one had a lot of feedback regarding the Marcolay cannon. So big ups to everyone that responded with their own opinions and thoughts on the game. Let me know down below what you guys think, and I will catch you all on the next one. Bye bye.